the Ron and Brian Podcast. Get ready to fill your ears with the latest news, politics, current events, and whatever else we feel like talking about this week. And now, your hosts, Ron and Brian.
And good evening, everybody. It is Sunday night. It is 8 o'clock, and it is time for episode 299 of the Ron and Brian Podcast. Brian, outstanding to see you. As always, my friend, how goes it today?
Oh, it's going wonderful. Sunday night is a cherished date. It's a cherished time. It is, it's filled with memories. It is filled with hopes, wishes, and dreams. And they will all be realized over the course of the next 59 minutes. We welcome everybody that is currently watching live in the chat. For those who are listening to the audio version, the podcast that goes out tomorrow, listen, you're missing out a lot not watching this live here on YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, X, Instagram. Brian looks shiny already catching shit. Shit. Brian looks shiny. That's right. I'm a little sweaty, but that's because I haven't really had my water yet, but I'm going to start sipping it.
There. Dominic, 100% correct. I am back in Home Central. We after the earthquake the other week, we got the engineers in here, and everything's safe. So we are back. The belt is in place. The fan art is in place. We are in place, more importantly. And I think all we can do, Brian, is start things off with Drink of the Week.
Let's do it.
Drink of the Week.
Na zdrowie.
Salud.
Drink of the Week.
Sláinte.
Drink of the week. Drink of the week. Drink of the week. Drink of the week.
Brian, what are you drinking this week, my friend?
Listen, it is April, which means one thing, and that is I'm coming in heavy on the Sam Adams front. This week, we are rocking their Breakaway Blonde Ale. I've never tried this one before. I'm sure William Esquire will post something about how he is not a fan of it. But the thing is, Ron, light cereal and biscuit notes team up for the touches of tangerine to give the Breakaway Blonde a balanced complexity. The light body, clean and quick finish will make a whole crowd, more importantly, will make me cheer for more. It pours a hazy golden yellow color, fruity, citrusy aromas with a hint of floral hops. Listen, this is going to be a crisp but medium-bodied brew, coming in at 4.7 ABV. Beer Advocate scores it an 82. I'm about to take my first sip.
I'm not. I've drank a lot of different Sam Adams. Not familiar with the Breakaway Blonde Ale. How is it? Is it crushable, Brian?
No. Let me phrase it. It could be crushable. However, there's a bitterness here that I was not expecting, and not necessarily a fan. I will drink both of the beers that I have. I have these two. Of course.
We would expect nothing less for you.
I will knock both of these out, along with this shot I have of Crown Royal Canadian whiskey. I'll be knocking that out. But this beer, not really a fan. I'm just not enjoying it. Ron, tell me you've got something good working for you.
Real quick though, I know you're a Crown Royal fan. Have you tried the Blackberry Crown Royal?
No, I've been rocking the vanilla. Where'd you get
I was traveling this week for work, and one of our hotels had a bottle of it at the bar, and the GM recommended mixing that with some lemonade over ice. So I might have to try and procure a bottle of that. Just curious, because I know you're a Crown guy. So
no, I do love it. And what was that Blackberry you said?
Blackberry Crown Royal. But this week, Brian, if you remember our good friends from Minocqua Brewing Company out of Minocqua, Wisconsin, they make progressive beers for progressive folks, they like to say. Had a bit of a falling out with the podcast when Brian was champion. They weren't 100% behind some of his ideals. I have since mended those fences, and in celebration of them now shipping to 45 of the 50 states in this United States of America. They sent me one of their newest beers, Brian, and that is the Dark Brandon Espresso Stout. Yes. As part of the Dark Brandon trend that has captured the nation over the last few years. This is an espresso stout. It is part of their award-winning Rusty Dog coffee mixed with their stout beer. This clocks in at a 6% alcohol. Look at that, dark as night.
Ooh.
Dark as Dark Brandon's soul.
That is Dark Brandon dark.
Let's see. It's interesting.
I don't like interesting. You got to give me more than that.
It's not quite what you were expecting. It's not as heavy as a regular stout. It's actually as far as stouts go on the light side. You get the bitterness from the espresso. Like this is a stout you could drink year round. Like normally stouts we keep for the fall and the winter, but I think this it's a light bodied stout with a nice espresso aftertaste.
We know you do love combining your alcohol with your coffee.
Whenever possible, whenever absolutely possible. So the fact when the brewer does it for me, it's even better.
Yes. Excellent. What else do we have?
What else? You know what we have, Brian? Beef of the week.
Ron and Brian's Beef of the Week.
Brian, what is bothering you this week? You okay?
I guess
Do you need a minute?
I'll start. No. I've had a few days.
Okay.
I have had a few days to process this outrage.
Okay.
And it started off as outrage. It has then turned to anger. Now it's
natural
just
progression.
disappointment. Yeah. It's the 7 stages of
a lot of feelings going on.
It's friends who disappoint. Friends who disappoint.
Okay.
I don't know if you would see this correctly or if it's. You have friends that the forward has become a very important dynamic in society. Certain friends. The forward, certain friends, you are over forwarding you links to things.
Okay, I got you.
It's almost as if if they wake up and they see, a picture of a flower, automatically they're going to forward it to you. It's if your interests are going to mirror theirs. There are friends who really don't forward very often, but when they do, it's precision. It is exactly within your wheelhouse of interests.
It's laser focused.
100%.
Okay.
And now, earlier this week, I had a friend who I would actually define as near and dear to me. On Twitter, I received a notification that they had sent me a forward dealing with O.J. Simpson.
Oh. And
it looked like it was a forward of a link to an article from, I believe it was the San Francisco Chronicle, where the headline appeared to read that on his deathbed, O.J. Simpson had acknowledged his participation and responsibility for the death of Nicole Brown Simpson and Ronald Goldman. Immediately I was...
Big news if true.
I jumped on board and said, hold on a second, that can't be. I clicked the link. Keep in mind, I'm at work.
Okay.
And where does my internet browser take me to?
To the news article?
Big Barry Wood. Nope. Ooh. Big Barry Wood. Naked photo of the man. Absolutely.
Right.
Now, for those of you who remember peak pandemic internet, we're talking April, May 2020, when everybody was home, afraid to leave the house. Big Barry Wood was all over the internet. This man's penis was about the size of a Genoa salami. Would you agree with that?
Just like a tree trunk. I mean, maybe more.
It's just massive. Keep in mind, I have a large monitor at work. So literally it was just a gigantic picture of the man, filled my entire screen, penis, hog, and all, just dangling down. I could not close it fast enough. And this was coming from a friend who sends me
a good friend, a close friend.
One of the closest friends who consistently sends me stock. Why would you even do that on your work computer?
Why would you even do this on your work computer, Brian?
Okay, because I trusted that this person had sent me a link to an article about O.J. Simpson, and I was interested in reading it. And it was not. This person knew exactly. This person knew exactly this had nothing to do with. They knew exactly they were sending me a link to Big Barry Wood, and I didn't get into any trouble at work. But for a brief few minutes,
you were concerned. There was worry.
Listen, Allie, the voice of reason, you are in HR. Why aren't you using your personal device? Because I trusted this person, and they proved themselves to be untrustworthy. And it's just hurt. I was filled with rage. It hurt. I was very angry.
Well, I hope that person hears this broadcast and takes those words to heart. But I hope you also do some personal reflection as well. And think about proper workplace etiquette.
I now understand the mistakes I made and what I have to do. Who I can, what personal firewalls I need to have in place. But when I did mention to this friend, who I don't know if I can call them a friend anymore, exactly what happened, their immediate response was, "Ooh, that worked out better than I even hoped for." Well, not really. That was actually the just a slap in the face.
That I could see where that would have pushed you over the edge a little bit. That feels inappropriate.
My beef of the week was friends you can't trust.
All right. Yes.
What's bothering you?
So this week, Brian, my beef of the week, and there's been a lot. You and I have talked about a lot of things that bother me over this past week. But my beef this week, Brian, is with puppy mills. A scourge across the country. If you are looking to get a dog, you should adopt, not shop. If you have to go to a breeder, you should check and make sure they're reputable, because there's still a bunch of these puppy mills out there. And I was introduced, Brian, to one of these puppies that was rescued from a puppy mill, is currently being fostered by friends of the podcast, the Jardys. This, my friends, is the Jardys. This is Jack Sparrow. He is a 9-week-old Dalmatian puppy. He was rescued from a puppy mill situation, as you can see in this photo. Again, if you're listening, you can't see the photo. If you're listening, you should watch it on YouTube. But he has lost vision in his right eye. He is potentially deaf. There still has to be some testing onto that. There's an issue with his right front leg that he needs to get x-rayed. He might need to have that amputated. And he's got some stomach issues. But had a chance to meet him Friday night. The absolute sweetest dog on the planet. And it just infuriates me that these type places exist where these poor defenseless animals are in disgusting conditions. I am hopeful that he will go to a loving home once all of his medical issues are cleared up. But that's my beef. I mean, probably not as important a topic as you being able to scroll your social media accounts at leisure at work. But that's just me this week, Brian. That's just how I feel. So Jack, we're all pulling for you out here.
What's his last name? Mehoff?
Is everything a joke to you, Brian? It's everything a joke to you.
Yeah. It's the only way it's the only way I know how to process trauma.
I understand. So let's hop into the show. I mean, I guess we've been doing the show, but let's hop into the stories. Thank you, Allie. This is why I'm the champ. My beef is about the well-being of a poor, defenseless creature, and Brian is trying this faux outrage about seeing Big Black Cock, which we know is his screensaver and his background photo on his work computer. So why he is clutching his pearls over his little beef there. Anyway, Brian, we have our stories of the week, as always, the stories that we want to make sure that we get to, that they don't fall through the cracks. What, Brian, pray tell, is your story of the week this week?
Listen, one of the things that I have always prided myself on is being cutting edge. Being the first to embrace new technology and new uses of technology as it enters our society. Here in New York, and I know a lot of you, especially you, Ali, are going to point out that I am currently in New Jersey, but I can actually see New York from my window, where if I look out right now, I can see the Verrazano Bridge connecting Staten Island to Brooklyn.
Okay.
However, in the borough of Manhattan, there is a restaurant by the name of, it's called Sanson Ramen. And they have taken a very interesting spin on embracing technology in their staffing plans. They are a ramen restaurant selling noodles in soup with various accoutrements, if you would.
Makes sense.
And one of the interesting things is the fact that they have now eliminated in-person waiters and waitresses. They have introduced this concept where when you walk into the restaurant, you are staring at a computer screen, and it is actually connected to a Zoom linked individual from the Philippines who asks for your order, takes your order, enters it into the restaurant system, and then directs you to which table is available for you to sit down at. This place is, rejecting the New York City wage rules that require people to be minimum paid. I believe it's $15.75 an hour. These poor women from the Philippines, and it states here in the article, are making about $3 an hour. This is the future of dining out, people,
right?
Is the fact that there's no more wait staff, nobody to talk to anymore. You're looking at somebody who has been outsourced into another country, which is just, I can't even imagine what kind of tips these people are getting. They are probably not getting a penny. If it were this to me is tragic. And I absolutely refuse to go to this restaurant or any one restaurant that is using this style to avoid having to hire Americans.
But you also prefer not having to interact with people when you are out. So is this maybe a plus for you in that way?
I hate interacting with salespeople. If I walk into a clothing store, I don't want someone to walk around and tell me that, oh, I would look great in that jacket. I don't want that. But if I'm in a restaurant, absolutely, I want to wait to. I want to sit there and say like, hey, what are the specials? I want to hear what they are. I want hey, can I get a couple extra napkins? This is what that's the interactions I would like.
Okay. I have misjudged you, and I apologize.
This is the future and the end of restaurateurs. Just terrible, absolutely terrible.
All right, fair enough.
Ron?
Yes, sir.
What's your story of the week?
So my story, Brian, we go out to the West Coast. This is about a California man who is suing more than 50 women for $2.6 million after they shared negative stories about him on a Are We Dating the Same Guy Facebook page, claiming their reviews were false and defamatory. This gentleman here is Stuart Lucas Murray. The women say that he is using the legal action to intimidate them, and they are fighting back in court. On Monday, a judge in LA ruled that one of the women, Vanessa Valdez, did nothing wrong by sharing her opinion of Murray with the popular online group. Another woman hit with a lawsuit by Murray, Kelly Gibbons, said the first time she saw the man in real life was when he came to her house to drop off the lawsuit. The women targeted by Murray, who claims they ruined his dating life and damaged his reputation, are hoping the ruling will set a precedent and prevent him from further using the legal system against them. They are invoking California laws meant to deter junk lawsuits, also called anti-slap laws. Brian, do you think this man brought more negative attention to himself by filing this lawsuit than anything on Facebook could have done?
I'm going to say this is probably a bad move on his part.
Okay.
Do you not agree?
No, I would agree 100%. And he's probably also spending a lot in legal fees, which he's not going to recoup anything from. But it's just ridiculous that this is the mindset today where people feel if something is out on social media that isn't necessarily libelous or slanderous, that you can just sue people for it.
Now, does it say any, in the descriptions what these women were saying made him a bad date?
It doesn't really go into it too much. I mean, the one woman mentioned that she chatted with him on the phone, and after that decided she didn't want to meet him in person. She said the phone call went so badly that she wanted to warn other women about his rude behavior. She said, quote, "I wouldn't want my friend going out with someone like that." So she posted it on Facebook. And, within a week, 50 people had responded saying that they had similar negative interactions with him. So maybe, just maybe, try to be a better person than, taking these women to court and suing them.
I have to believe that that's only, validating these reviews of him as a human being.
Right.
I mean, the fact that you're going to sit there and say, I don't like what you posted about me, so I'm taking you to court. Right.
He's actually not the first man to have filed lawsuits like this. Nico D'Ambrosio filed a lawsuit against 27 women in Chicago in January after they described him in their posts as very clingy and a ghoster.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So he ghosts women? Or the other guy? This other guy does.
This other guy. Yeah. But the judge in Murray's case on Monday said that based on the evidence, the court did not see any possibility of Murray prevailing against the defendants on any claim he made. So he's just spending money to look like an idiot.
All right. Well, he's just, all he's doing is just, reminding everyone, especially the ladies who are in the Los Angeles area who are interested in dating him, that this is somebody you absolutely should stay away from.
Right. Brian, we have tried to stay away from politics as much as possible, but there was a clip this past week of Lawrence O'Donnell on MSNBC, and I know you're a huge Lawrence O'Donnell fan. You bought the Lawrence O'Donnell fleshlight. Like, I mean, you've got his greatest hits. But he talked about Donald Trump and his upcoming civil cases, specifically how Donald Trump is not going to testify in his upcoming civil cases, and just kind of eviscerated Donald Trump's looks, how he appears to the jury. And so we just wanted to play a couple minutes of that clip from his show the other night.
And while you are sitting there in the jury pool, listening to the judge describe this case to you, Donald Trump is sitting at the defense table looking like this.
Again, if you're listening to the podcast, you really need to be on Facebook, be on Instagram, be on Twitch, be on YouTube.
Yep. Let's take that back down to a half screen of Donald Trump. Now, we normally don't allow Donald Trump to occupy your full television screen during this program. But for this one time, as you consider yourself sitting there on Monday in the position of a juror looking at him, let's look at what they will actually see without hearing a word from Donald Trump. And for that, we're going to go back to the full screen so you can take in what this man actually looks like now. Donald Trump is likely to be sitting there, as he is in this recent campaign videos, That's a picture of him when he's trying to look his absolute best in his campaign video, which in his mind includes a face partially covered in some form of homemade bronzer in which he always forgets the ears. He always forgets his ears are visible, showing the real color of Donald Trump.
I mean, I will say the ears and especially around the eyes, always very disconcerting because it's just such a much lighter color than the rest of his head.
I don't know why he doesn't just go and buy himself a tanning booth and go inside the tanning booth. I don't know why he doesn't do that, why he thinks this looks good.
Couldn't tell you.
Contrast to the mud brown that he has decided makes him look his best. And to some eyes, actually makes him look like a horror movie character. That is not a face you want to present to a criminal jury whose job it is to concentrate on the evidence in the case. Those jurors will be listening to Judge Merchan's questions while having trouble fighting the urge to steal another peek at that profoundly strange-looking man sitting at the defense table, whose voice they will probably never hear in court. Because it is impossible, as Donald Trump and his lawyers know, for Donald Trump to testify under oath without committing perjury that he will not get away with.
So, Brian, valid point or low blow going after Trump's makeup proclivities, if you will?
I'm going to say low blow. You don't know exactly what he is going to look like when he goes into court. We have seen video of him in the New York Municipal Court on several occasions, and not once did I think he looked, abnormal. Even maybe for Trump. I mean, obviously this video has just got some very bizarre, lighting. He definitely doesn't look good here. But we'll see what he looks like when he shows up in court. I believe the case starts tomorrow. Is that correct?
Starts tomorrow. Jury selection, I believe, is completed, and they will start the actual case tomorrow.
I just can't. How on earth did they find 12 people who believably sat there and said, "I do not have any opinion on this subject matter, and I'll be open-minded to the facts." Yeah, right. Either way.
I have no opinion. I don't support him. I don't not support him. Like I don't know. Yeah. It'll be very interesting to see how this case plays out over the coming weeks.
Very interesting. We'll see where we go.
You know what else tomorrow is, Brian?
Hold on. It's the Ides of March. It's the Ides of March.
It's tax day tomorrow, Brian. It is tax day. Have you finished your taxes, Brian?
I'll be filing for an extension tomorrow.
All right. Very good. Very good. Well, would you like to see a breakdown of where the average U.S. citizen's taxes went in 2023?
Yes, let's do this.
All right. So last year in 2023, Brian, the average taxpayer contributed $4,308 for Medicare and Medicaid versus $5,109 for militarism and its support systems, including the Pentagon and war, veterans programs, deportations and border militarization, and spending on federal policies and prisons. Education, very important, Brian. $346 per person went to K through 12 education, compared to $2,974 for the Pentagon, more than half of which went to corporate contractors. $516 went to the SNAP program to help food suffering families, but $1,748 for Pentagon contractors such as Lockheed Martin, Boeing, and SpaceX. $58 for diplomacy to end and prevent wars, but $112 to militaries in other countries for weapons and military training. $31.69 for substance use support and mental health programs versus $32.29 for federal prisons. And then $14 for wildfire management versus $110 for immigrations and customs enforcement and border patrol. Brian,
wait a second. I didn't think we had a border patrol anymore. I thought that ICE just basically shut down and is letting everybody in through the southern border.
Well, they're still getting paid though, Brian. They're still collecting pay.
Oh, so they're not doing their job; they're just collecting the payment. Okay, good for them.
Correct.
Good for them.
So
very disturbing.
A little bit. Feels like some of those numbers could be balanced out a little bit. It's always amazing to me how much we spend on military and defense in this country, more than the next 25 countries combined, 24 of which are allies. So it seems like a bit of an overkill. And as always, the Pentagon has yet to be able to balance their books in any fiscal year on record.
Sure. Yeah, and
billions and billions of spending, yet not tracked.
Sure. And not only that, but they're not even profitable. They don't turn a profit. Remember when Donald Trump was president and he kept giving the post office such a different whole thing. They do not turn a profit. There's no reason for them to. Our military, our budget. We're not making money off the military. We're losing money off of them.
Exactly.
This is an outrage. Outrage.
It's an outrage, Brian. It's an outrage. What else happened this week? We have, Brian, the vessel at Hudson Yards, one of your favorite, I think, tourist attractions there in Manhattan.
I love it.
We talked about this, about a month ago, about how the building had been closed down because people had been jumping off of it, committing suicide.
And I was disappointed. Only 3 people killed themselves off of that. I thought it was way higher.
When you look at it in comparison to some other, the bridges or, some of the other buildings, it does seem rather low. But I guess, the owners determined that they needed to shut it down for a little bit. But now the famed landmark will reopen to visitors later this year with new safety barriers installed. This is, if you haven't seen the building, this is a picture of it right here. Obviously very easy when you're on the outer walkways to be able to jump. But now the massive spiral staircase on the west side of Manhattan will have cut-resistant floor-to-ceiling steel mesh on most levels that will be able to withstand the outdoor elements.
I am so excited. This was what did they spend? They spent $2 billion building this piece of art that was supposed to just be a centerpiece of the Hudson Yards experience. Shut it down after just a few months. I did not have an opportunity to visit it. I will when it reopens and case the joint out just in case, the day comes that I decide it is done for BP. I'm going to just see, listen, is there any way I can jump off this damn thing?
Well, apparently not anymore. And it was built for the cost of $200 million.
Just outrageous. And here's a question. How much did New Yorkers each spend for the vessel as opposed to, education, the Department of Ed or Department of Transportation or the Department of Sanitation?
Any other departments you'd like to list?
Nope. I only like to go with 3.
All right. That's impressive. Brian, you saw this story about a work from home employee. Apparently got fired by her boss after her boss tracked her laptop activity. You being in HR, obviously, you were all over this story. Tell us a little bit about it.
All right. So we go all the way to Australia, where a 38-year-old employee of Insurance Australia Group. Do you have a photo of the young lady?
Let me see. Matt, do you have that photo ready?
All right. Thank you, Matt. You are looking at Susie Chico, Cheiko. Susie. She has been an employee of Insurance Australia Group for the past 18 years. And recently, back in February, was let go after she was given a formal warning during her performance review. And she is now on social media stating that she has now had to turn to welfare and fears she will never get hired again. And what was her crime? Why did she get fired? Well, she was put on a performance improvement plan, or as we like to call in the business, a pip. And her keyboard strokes were monitored as opposed to my hand strokes. They were monitored on 49 working days between October and December. She was let go as a result of that monitoring for missing deadlines and meetings, being absent and uncontactable, and failing to complete a task which caused the industry regulator to fine Insurance Australia Group. Now she is looking for sympathy from the public. However, her boss, her former employer stated that she did not work her scheduled hours on 44 of the 49 days tracked. Ooh. She started late 47 of them, finished early on 29 days, and performed 0 hours of work on 4 days. Now, during an interview with the Daily Mail, she shares her fears on how she may never be employed again. It's embarrassing that this story has gone viral. Nobody wants to work with me. She even states, in 18 years of working there, I only ever got one warning. And then she complains that she now needs to be on welfare and she's getting paid by the government. I'm sorry, but she's talking, she went on and on about how this has affected her mental health, and she's an advocate for mental health issues because she has suffered. So I'm sorry, I do not have a lot of sympathy for somebody who just does not even show up for work 4 days in a 2-month period and was late 47 out of 49 days. No sympathy here. I actually feel like, somehow because she's got blonde hair, this is, a reason that the social media is going to, people are going to try to defend her and make her a sympathetic figure.
Was there any links to her OnlyFans page in the article?
Not that I'm aware of, though I have to admit I did not search. I was at work, and you know me, I do not like looking up inappropriate work.
So as Ali comments, so it wasn't a big black dick. So Brian has a problem with someone looking at unrelated work topics during work hours.
Oh, she wasn't working. That's the point. She started late, left early, and some days just didn't work. And then somehow she wants to be a sympathetic figure. I do not have sympathy for her. So no, we will not feel bad for her.
All right. Well, no, and I agree with you. I mean, and especially since, if you've got like keystroke trackers and things like that, there are so many devices that have been created for work at home people to make their computer set up to trick their employers into thinking they're working.
Sure.
Just go that extra step. Just if you're going to be lazy, just go the extra step and lie about the amount of work you're doing as well.
Yeah, don't be that lazy. Too much. Too
right.
lazy.
This past week was the solar eclipse. Lots of people were excited about it. We talked about how we didn't really care about it. Did you have a chance to go see the eclipse when it happened on Monday? I
did.
And?
I went outside. I went down to Broadway. Stood on Broadway with some coworkers. Who had fortunately brought extra pair of eclipse glasses.
Oh, very nice of them.
I was able to watch it. Now, what I don't understand is, how did everybody end up having eclipse glasses? Where are they getting them from? It was
a big thing. I know around here, we could have gone to our local libraries and picked up eclipse glasses.
Oh.
Yeah.
But you're too good for that. Where did you go?
I didn't get eclipse glasses, and I wasn't in a location where I could really see the eclipse all that well. I was down in West Virginia at the time. So it really just got like almost like overcast out, like it was cloudy, and then just got bright again.
So you were smoking meth in West Virginia?
Yes. We keep trying to click the same comment. Go ahead, put it up there. Billy with a great comment. Brian took a break from looking at Barry to look at the eclipse.
That's a good one, William. That's a good one.
The eclipse, Brian, had many effects on people. Down in Florida, a crazed woman opened fire on an interstate, shooting 2 drivers because God told her to do so. via the solar eclipse. This right here, Brian, this is Talon Nichelle Celestine, age 22. She left her motel home Monday and told motel staffers that she was directed by God to go on a shooting spree in relation to the total solar eclipse, even though Florida wasn't anywhere near the path of the eclipse.
Right.
So she hopped in her Dodge Charger. She got onto Interstate 10 and began firing on other vehicles within 5 miles of getting on the highway in Washington County. She allegedly shot at a passing car on the interstate several times. The male driver of the vehicle was grazed by a bullet on the arm and was struck with glass fragments when a bullet shattered his window. And then she kept driving west, fired on a second vehicle. That driver was shot in the neck and rushed to a nearby hospital for treatment. She continued driving until highway patrol troopers caught up with her and pulled her over. They allegedly recovered an AR-15 and a 9mm handgun from her car. She was taken into custody without incident and booked on charges of attempted murder, aggravated battery with a deadly weapon, and improper discharge of a firearm. The investigation into her crime is still ongoing.
Yikes.
And it just...
it doesn't even make sense. That just doesn't make sense. Go on a shooting spree because of an eclipse?
Everyone, like everything these days, there was, a ton of, conspiracy theories about what was really going on, Brian. It's never just an eclipse. It is, it's bad things happening. Also, apparently, a server reported that a woman went into the restaurant that she worked at and tipped 2 servers nearly $1,100 because she was convinced that the eclipse was the rapture. The server wrote in a Reddit post, quote, "A woman came to our restaurant the other day with a friend. She was nice, but kept trying to proselytize to me. She tipped $300 on a $40 bill and wrote on the receipt, 'In case you don't rise on the 8th. The woman returned 2 days later and was waited on by another server. She kept asking the server if he was Christian, to which he said no. And then she started talking about how awful it'll be after the rapture for sinners left on earth. The woman tipped him $777, telling the server, 'You'll need this later.' Then the woman returned after the eclipse, after the rapture did not happen, and tried to get her money back. Said that the $1,077 in tips were fraudulent.
Oh my God! Did she get away with it?
She did not, because the manager had to verify both tips because it was such a high amount over the cost of the bill that he had to verify it for it to go through the credit card company.
Yeah.
But how very Christian. You give money away because you feel the rapture is going to happen. I'll just take that back now. I'll just take that back.
Can I get that back, please? Thank you. Thank you very much.
That
isn't very Christian.
Ethan Crumbley, the Michigan school shooter, his parents, who were both sentenced for, was it manslaughter, because of their, I guess, non-monitoring of their son. They were both found guilty on involuntary manslaughter charges, and both of them were sentenced to between 10 to 15 years behind bars on Tuesday for their son's 2021 massacre that left 4 students dead. The first time parents have been sentenced in a U.S. mass school shooting. Good precedent.
I think that's great.
I do too.
That's great. I think it's an incredible step forward.
Do you think this causes some people, not necessarily to get rid of their guns, but to be more present in their kids' lives and try and pick up on these red flags that, this kid was drawing pictures of him killing his classmates, and his parents were aware of it, and yet they didn't bother to take his guns away.
Well, my understanding is these weren't even his guns. It was that They just left it laying there.
Right.
They left their guns out for him to grab.
They didn't put the guns away. They didn't protect. As you should. You should. If you're going to have guns, take care of them.
Yeah. I think that's very important. He can go fuck himself.
All three of them can, apparently, because they're all. I don't know if he's gone to court yet over his case. I mean, he's obviously going to spend the rest of his life in jail, but I don't know that they've necessarily.
I thought he pled guilty. I thought
did he?
What is this? Ethan Crumbly? Let me look
It
that
is
up.
so difficult to keep track of all these school shooters. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, he got sentenced to life in prison in December.
Okay. There we go. It was his Sig Sauer they bought him for Christmas that wasn't locked up. Lock up your guns.
Jesus, forget it.
John Wayne Bobbitt, Brian, I know you were a fan of his from back in the day. He made the news again this week. Apparently, can't keep any body parts attached to him. For those of you, you young folks out there, John Wayne Bobbitt got popular in the 90s. Did this happen? Late 80s, early 90s?
Oh, I would say that was early 90s.
Early 90s, where his wife cut off his penis,
Lorena
Bobbitt, and threw it into a field because she said that he had been physically abusing her. Cut off his penis while he slept. I'm still, I don't know that I could sleep through someone cutting my penis off, but never mind. But he made the news recently because he has lost additional appendages. This time, Brian, it is his toes. Here is a photo of his wrapped up feet. You can see just kind of the feet are just kind of stubs now with no toes on them. Bobbitt, a former Marine, was diagnosed with toxic peripheral polyneuropathy. I'm not even going to try to say that again. After being exposed to contaminated water at the Camp Lejeune military training facility in the late 1980s. The harrowing condition causes nerve damage to the extremities and has caused Bobbitt to have all of his toes amputated over the years, the last of which were removed in 2023. The operations left Bobbitt with 2 raw stumps for feet, a limp, and needing special prosthetic shoes. I've seen, I don't know if you've seen these ads, but lots of ads popping up for lawyers saying they will represent people that were made ill by the contaminated water at Camp Lejeune.
Sure.
This is the first story I really read about some of the side effects that happened from that water at the camp.
Do you actually believe that, or do you think he just pissed off his new girlfriend and doesn't have the courage to, go state, hey, while I was sleeping last night, my girlfriend cut off all my toes. This feels like a cover story.
It's possible.
You need to start looking like what is really going on behind the scenes here, Ron. Don't just accept what John Bobbitt is telling you. Start asking the questions. Do the work, Ron.
Do the work.
The work is
important. So important. But it's interesting because he in this interview, he says that his time at Camp Lejeune left him with more than just physical scars, but mental ones that he believes contributed to his volatile relationship with his ex-wife, Lorena. He said, quote, maybe I would have made better decisions if my cognitive functioning wasn't distorted by the chemicals.
Sounds like he's trying to blame some bad behavior on her. I'm not sure I agree with that.
Lorena Bobbitt, this is June of 1993. At that time, claimed her then husband raped and beat her. So she chopped off his manhood with a kitchen knife. She fled to her boss's house and tossed it out the window as she drove. In a 9-hour surgery, doctors reattached Bobbitt's salvaged penis and it returned to normal function. He even went on, if you remember, Brian, he went on to launch a porn career. And in 2013, claims he slept with 70 women since the attack. That year, he nearly lost a foot after contracting an infection from a dirty nail at a construction site. Clearly, God hates this man and wants this man to lose pieces of his body bit by bit.
By the way, John Wayne Bobbitt Uncut, which I believe is the name of the movie. You can find that on X Hamster, in case you were wondering.
That's right. I forgot. His ex-wife, she was facing up to 20 years in prison. She was found not
Sure.
guilty due to insanity, and then he was acquitted on charges of sexual assault that same year. Crazy,
Yes.
crazy story. This was 93, 30 years ago. Just goes to show you this
Yes.
country has always been crazy.
Do we know the state of the penis? Is it still attached? Has it fallen off a couple times? Does he have a detachable penis?
He says it works. I have not seen any of his porn movies. Was it more than one, or did he just do the one?
All I know is that when I went to X Hamster and I typed in John Bobbitt, Uncut came up, and that was the only movie that he was in.
What else do we have here, Brian? Celebrity obituaries. Speaking of 1993, this is the ultimate throwback to 19. Was it 93 or was it 94?
Yeah.
O.J.
It was
Simpson.
94. No, 94 was the big. 94 was when it took place. I remember I was a senior.
All right. Well, you were a senior for an extended period of time. So that really, I think your senior year of college really encapsulated about 3.5 years. So you need to be a little bit more specific about that.
It's a low blow. Low blow, my friend. Low blow. Not denying it, just saying it was a low blow.
So 94 was the murder. He was then acquitted in the 1995 murder trial. Yes, O.J. Simpson passing away, dying at his Las Vegas home at the age of 76. The shocking thing to me, not that he died, but that two of his children that he had with Nicole Brown Simpson were by his side when he passed away. Like, I don't know how you overlook your father. I mean, basically killing your mother because you wrote a book, If I Did It,
Sure.
which was really like, I mean, I did it. This is how I did it. He was, convicted in a civil trial of being responsible for the deaths of Nicole Brown Simpson and Ron Goldman.
Lower threshold. Lower threshold.
Yeah. And still, Ron Goldman, Fred Goldman, the father of Ron Goldman, still attempting to collect that civil settlement, which is now up over $100 million with penalties and interest and everything else. They've gone after everything they possibly could. The one thing that always kind of drove me crazy about this whole thing is that OJ's NFL pension was protected from being garnished by the lawsuit that he lost.
Why was that the case? Why was that true?
Apparently it's I guess it's one of the laws in this country is that a pension can't be garnished for payment of a civil lawsuit.
Okay. Why is OJ getting an NFL pension? I didn't think those sports had pensions from players in the 70s.
Apparently they did. I think some of them were. I think some of them were retroactive based on some of the negotiations the NFL Players Association made over the years.
Interesting, and let's face it. I mean, how much? I mean, OJ must have socked away a lot of that Hertz money.
Yes, and the only money I think the
The
Goldman
gun
saw
money.
was from that book. They were able to garnish the wages, and that is why, if you've ever seen the cover of the book is called "If I Did It." And they had creative control over the cover of the book the Goldman family did. So the "if" is in extremely small print, and then it just says in big letters, "I did it," across the front of the book.
Oh, good for them. Good for them.
Little OJ trivia. That was a wild time, though. Like, I remember, yes.
I was going to ask you, I mean, the story, the official story, and Ron, you do the work. You put the work in.
All the time. The work is so important, Brian. You need to be out there. You need to be doing the work.
Now, the cover story, the story that the police told, was that Ron Goldman was a waiter at a restaurant in the Los Angeles area, and he had driven to Nicole Brown Simpson's house to return some sunglasses.
Correct.
There was no official acknowledgement that there was any type of relationship she was having with Ron Goldman. I think. Did you believe that, or did you think that was a cover story?
I mean, I am as Chris Rock said, that was her boyfriend. Nobody, you don't leave anything at a restaurant and then the waiter brings it back to your house unless you're fucking. You just muted yourself again. I don't know what you did there, but you put your glass down.
Let me guess. My audio sounds bad.
Now your audio is all screwed up again. Go out, come back in so we can finish this conversation. 300 episodes. Brian still can't operate his microphone. So let's give him a second to come back in. But yeah, that was the story given was, no, they weren't going out. He just brought her sunglasses out. But I remember, and this has been on a lot of the news channels going back to the OJ trial. And I remember when it was announced that he was not guilty, and it was like there was a definite response that when I was at work, there was a definite response from white people, and there was a completely different response from black people. And there was cheering going on. At the end of the day, people were still dead. And was that the first big media trial?
Oh, yeah.
Almost the social media era.
Well, before that, really, there had been Court TV had just kind of kicked off in terms of the zeitgeist. There had been a Court TV, but they were not very sensational about stories they covered. A lot of them were just very matter of fact. It was almost as if it was for lawyers. And then because this was Los Angeles and they love the attention. Judge Ito, I believe, was the presiding judge, announced that there would be cameras in the courtroom and that they would be broadcasting live. And literally, people would, it became, round the clock banter. People would watch the court case during the daytime, and then throughout the evening, somebody would sum it up for those that were at work. I mean, there were, and it was just, you literally, you had such an impressive defense counsel. Like you look at Donald Trump now, and the defense attorneys that he has defending him, and it is a open secret now how he has struggled to get defense attorneys who are willing to represent him. Whereas you look at O.J. Simpson, who literally killed two people. Do I have to say allegedly, even though because he's not alive anymore?
I think.
Can I get away with not saying it?
I think you're good. Yeah.
He killed two people, and they even said he had the dream team of defense lawyers.
Oh yeah.
He had Johnny Cochran,
Dershowitz.
Alan Dershowitz, F. Murray Abraham.
Who was the other guy?
I had Robert Kardashian.
Robert Kardashian. He had,
and then I want to say he had F. Lee Bailey. F. Lee Bailey.
There's one more name that hold on, let me. I gotta Google.
F. Lee Bailey. No, is he not hearing me? Can you?
I'm hearing you. I hear you.
So you don't think it was F. Lee Bailey?
No, I do think, but there's one more guy, and I'm drawing a blank on his name.
F. Lee Bailey, Johnny Cochran, Alan Dershowitz, Robert Kardashian. There was a fifth guy.
There was another guy.
It was John Wayne Bobbitt. John Wayne Bobbitt was
Robert Shapiro. Robert Shapiro was the other one.
And he was the main one. He was the lead. Absolutely. Robert Shapiro. If I remember correctly, when we were back in college, you just called him Super Jew. I mean, you were less woke. You were less woke back then than you are now. I mean, now you understand that that's an offensive term.
And then on the other side, for the people, we had Marcia Clark, and who was the guy that was another prosecutor there.
You're going to have to look it up because we're not going to be able to go on without looking it up. African-American gentleman. He was bald, glasses.
He and Marcia Clark allegedly dated.
And it was not. They struggled.
They did. Lance Ito, I already know that part. Prosecution case.
I want to say
Darden.
Palmer.
That was it. Chris Darden.
Darden, yes. Darden, yes.
The Bronco chase, like Billy said, car chase interrupted the NBA playoffs. I remember coming home from the bar.
Where were you that day?
I I had gone out to happy hour after work, and I came home, and a buddy of mine called me on my phone and said, "Are you watching the OJ chase?" And I was like, "I have no idea what you're talking about right now." He's like, "Turn on your TV." And, and there it was. It was that slow Bronco. AJ Cowlings was driving the Bronco, and OJ was crouched down in the back seat.
Sure.
And I see OJ. I remember
OJ.
The fake phone call to Al Michaels.
That was a farcical call.
Phone call. Lest anyone think that's from a person that's actually there. Oh, so much nonsense around that.
Such good times.
Remember how Jimmy Fallon had the dancing Edos on his late night show at that point?
Was that Jimmy Fallon, or was that? I thought that was Jay Leno.
I think it was Jimmy Fallon. Maybe it was Jay Leno.
I think Jimmy Fallon. I don't even think Jimmy Fallon was on Saturday Night Live yet.
It's very possible. Hold on. Now, we really should have researched all this, but
how can you research a trip down memory lane?
It was Jay Leno. You were correct, and that was going back. That was only season 3 of the Tonight Show with Jay Leno.
Jesus, Janelle was in 8th grade.
Wow. Well, it was a time, and now OJ's laid to rest. Let's see. I didn't really.
You know what I thought was what?
No, go ahead. I was gonna talk about the other celebrity obituaries we had.
Oh, the one comment that I had, which I always felt was, OJ really got railroaded in the memorabilia trial that he had. Years after this case, the murder case had been where he had been found not guilty in a criminal case. Years later, he was suddenly arrested in Las Vegas for attempted robbery, armed robbery, if I'm not correct. That he apparently was. He had some of his Heisman Trophy and other awards supposedly stolen from him, and then he found some memorabilia dealer who was in possession of this stuff. So he rounded up some friends of his who broke into a hotel. This and he did time for that, if I'm not correct.
Oh, he did. He did like 7 or 8 years, and everybody at the time really said everyone really felt like, not that OJ had a lot of defenders, but people were like, all right, most people, technical first-time offenders, since he was acquitted, would not have gotten that sentence. So everyone was kind of like, this is the law, kind of trying to make things right. Because I think he was initially sentenced to like 20 years, and then he got out in like 7 or 8 because it was like a combination of his health, overcrowding, and good behavior. Good point. Wild. Billy said because he locked people in the hotel room, it also counted as kidnapping. So they really piled as many charges.
They stacked the case against him, and he was found guilty, and he did real time for that. And that was a case where I think that had it been anyone else, that person would have been able to plea bargain that down to time served, and they would have walked.
Probation, something. Yes. But I think it definitely. And again, OJ deserved it. Please don't get us wrong here, but it is kind of interesting how that works sometimes. Also passing away this week, Brian, Robert McNeil, PBS newscaster for a long time, part of the McNeil-Lehrer News Hour,
yes,
with Jim Lehrer for 2 decades, died of natural causes at the age of 93. He also covered the Senate Watergate hearings for PBS, and began his half-hour Robert McNeil report on PBS back in 1975. 93 is a good long life. I don't know that I'd want to live to be 93.
I don't think I would. The thing is this, once people hit, their 70s and 80s, things start going downhill. Your body starts falling apart. Your mind starts falling apart. Those 90s, for most people, are not fun times.
I mean, we're in our 50s and things are already falling apart. So I can't even imagine what it would be like 40 years from now. Italian fashion designer Roberto Cavalli has died at the age of 83. No cause of death immediately shared. Not familiar with him. I know you are the senior fashion correspondent for the Ron and Brian podcast. I know you were a fan of his phrase, "Excess is success." You sailed on his purple metallic yacht a few times, but I'm not familiar with his work.
Listen, I'm currently wearing Cavalli boxers. You know, I love my Cavalli boxers.
Fair enough.
They're very roomy in the front. They're nice and tight in the back. So when I'm walking out of the room, it's got, I really can show off my cakes. People, thick. People sit there and go thick. It really shows my buttocks. However, at the same time, in the front, lots of room. A lot of times, you wear boxers, you get that, your ball sack sticks to the inner thigh, and it just kind of creates that suction for about 4 hours. Not when you're wearing Cavallis. When you're wearing Cavalli underwear, there is that extra layer of material.
Story.
They say no cause of death yet, but he had been dating a 38-year-old model. Been dating her for 10 years, and she just recently gave birth to his 6th child. Man was probably exhausted. When you're 83, you don't have that kind of stamina. You just
no, not at all. Why would you?
And then finally this week, Brian, the final celebrity obituary we have. This is, hold on, I got the name here. Firehouse frontman CJ Snare. Dead at the age of 64. I feel like I should know a song from Firehouse.
I feel like I should also. The name was familiar. I remember the band Firehouse. I don't remember anything that they
Love of a Lifetime. That's the song. Finally found the love of a lifetime. So he died unexpectedly on Friday after suffering cardiac arrest at the age of 64. He was a founding member of Firehouse. Played the band was together
64?
34 years. That's 64.
That's not a bad looking 64.
I mean, it's amazing what money does for you.
Seriously. Well, I don't know how much Firehouse was really rolling in the dough.
I mean, Love of a Lifetime was one of those one-hit wonder songs, and they had apparently another one called, hold on here. I know.
The other hit, I thought that it was I Want It That Way. The one that was like, you are my fire, the one desire.
Yes, Brian. Yes, that was Firehouse.
You are.
I did it finally. I said yes. I improv'd with you.
Thank you. Yes, and it's the name of the game. It all works. It always works. Anything else?
It's been a spectacular episode, Brian. We are preparing for After Dark. I don't know if we've mentioned this enough during our podcast, but
we definitely don't.
If you are a Patreon subscriber, you get an extra half hour of content starting at 9:30 tonight, starting in just 22 scant minutes. If you're not a Patreon subscriber, go to ronandbrianpodcast.com. Click in the link in the upper right-hand corner. For just a minimal donation of $10 a month, you get access to the live After Dark, which our Patreon subscribers will be joining us shortly. At the final Sunday of every month, we do a pajama party. We have our Patreon folks join us on the podcast. We do Can You Beat Ron? Can You Beat Brian? I think we're due for a Can You Beat Brian potentially at the end of this month.
This month is, yes. Assuming you don't go on vacation.
Assuming I show up, always hit or miss. You never know. So check it out. It costs a lot, to buy equipment, to pay for the broadcast platform, thing like that. We don't make money on this. We put all the money back into the podcast. So that's why we encourage you folks to donate to the Patreon. Next week, Brian, we would be remiss if we didn't mention that next week is episode 300 of the Ron and Brian podcast. It's a big one.
Are we doing anything for it? I feel like, episode 100, we had just a who's who of D-level celebrities wishing us Congratulations on hitting episode 100. Episode 200, right, if I am not correct, it was a White House state dinner. If I remember correctly, you were champion at the time, so you sat at the table with President Trump. You made me sit in the you made me sit all the way in the back.
You had to sit with Barron. You were at the kids' table with Barron, and I still feel bad about it.
Sure. It hurt. It hurt my feelings. Unfortunately, the real issue is, what are we doing for 300?
We'll have to have a discussion, but whatever it is, you folks are going to want to be here for it. So be sure to set your calendar, set your clock, set your alarms, put an Outlook notice in, a Slack message. What else do people do these days? Teams. Put a Teams link in, just whatever it takes to make sure that you are here next Sunday night, 8 o'clock for episode 300. In the meantime, Brian, let's get ready for another fantastic After Dark. Anything else to end this episode with, Brian?
Absolutely nothing. Just another special time that we just shared. Thanks to everybody watching live. Truly appreciate the fact that you're sharing your Sunday evenings with us. The comments, always love them. I always feel like the chat is like the third member of the show.
Very true.
So love
Good
to see
point
the
from
comments.
Billy. Unknown Comic wished us well for episode 200. Mm-hmm. That's a throwback.
Absolutely. So we got to have to do something special for 3.
All right. Well, podcast fans, we will see you next Sunday for episode 300. Patreon subscribers, we will see you in 19 minutes.
Thank you for joining us on the Ron and Brian podcast. We're live each week on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. You can find prior episodes, links to our social media, and everything else Ron and Brian at ronandbrianpodcast.com. See you again